Okay, so Elvis is directed by Baz Luhrmann, starring Austin Butler as Elvis and Tom Hanks as Colonel Patterson, I think it is, his manager. And it's all about the life story of Elvis, his origin, how he became inspired with music, which starts all the way back in the late 40s, all the way to 1977, to his date of when Elvis died. It is definitely a ride, that's for sure, this movie. And at first, I wasn't really sure whether this was kind of like the right type of movie for me. I know it was a Baz Luhrmann movie, and I know his style is a bit polarizing. Some people love his style, some people kind of hate it. I'm somewhere in the middle. I mean, definitely this movie was at a lot of moments very bombastic, very in your face, very sometimes obnoxious. A lot of spinny, flashy text like jumping up into the screen, like telling you where you were, and a lot of dizzying, spinny shots, and very fast paced. I guess it's been a very long time since I've seen a Baz Luhrmann film, so I think I had to kind of adjust a little bit to his style. But I kind of started to accept it as the movie went on. But as I'm saying, a lot of people might find this movie annoying of the way it portrays certain time periods. I mean, I think the 50s. I mean, I didn't grow up in the 50s. I wasn't alive in the 50s, so I wouldn't tell. But it did kind of feel a little bit too stereotyped in this movie. I think they might have hand-fisted up just a little bit too much. A little bit too much of a caricature sometimes. I mean, I feel like, I feel like Back to the Future was kind of a better movie that kind of portrayed the 50s that was a bit more grounded and a bit more believable. While this one is really, pushing it up and really throwing it at you and stuff like that. And a lot of people will like that, some won't. But it's not really. It's about Elvis. It's about how Elvis became, the legend in the guy that kind of started rock music, kind of changed the way music was like consumed. Really, the first person that really franchised music and brought in all of the crazy fans. Really, the first of his kind, and it shows that it shows how Elvis was inspired by gospel music, by going to the church when he was younger, and him kind of like developing his own style of dance, and showing how him wiggling his legs is what kind of hypnotized the fans, and girls just fell in love with him and thought he was amazing. And also the controversy that this style of music brought, how people thought it was kind of like the devil's music and stuff like that, which is pretty silly by today's standards. But it is interesting of just seeing just how much controversy Elvis stirred up in his early years. But then it goes through the 60s, and I'm not sure about this, but I felt like he meets like another band in the movie, and I have this feeling that it was the Rolling Stones. I mean, there was a guy who looked like Mick Jagger, and I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be the Rolling Stones, but it kind of it shows a relationship between Colonel Patterson and Elvis, kind of how controlling Colonel is of telling Elvis to do what he wants to be done instead of letting Elvis have the freedom to kind of just be his own thing. One thing I learnt from this movie, which I didn't know, was that I never realised that Elvis was completely, all of his live shows were never done outside of America. I never knew that he never went overseas, which is crazy when you think about it, because like someone as big as Elvis not being allowed to leave the States, it's kind of crazy. And it shows how he was like restricted to like one venue over 5 years, and how bitterness, there was bitterness between him and Colonel, and there was a lot of conflict. So there is a good deal of drama in this movie too, but mostly it is focused on the music and the musical performances, and Austin Butler does a really good job at portraying Elvis. Now, I wouldn't really call myself to be like a massive Elvis fan, but I have enjoyed listening to his music in the past whenever I've heard it. I mean, my nan is a big fan of Elvis, and even she was skeptical about going into this movie. She still hasn't seen it yet, so I guess I'll know what her opinion is once she sees it. But like, even though I'm not like crazy about Elvis, I do still enjoy listening to the music that he does, because he has such a really inviting and like soulful and iconic voice. Of course, his dancing is iconic, his presence is iconic, and Austin really nails all of Elvis's mannerisms, and even like singing most of the songs that you hear in the movie himself, which sometimes it's very hard to like knows the difference, because he's just able to pull it off so well. So I would definitely recommend seeing this movie if you are a fan of Elvis. One thing I will point on is it did feel a bit too long. I mean, this movie goes for almost 3 hours, and I know it's supposed to be like the life story of Elvis, but it did feel like it did drag in certain parts, and certain parts could have maybe especially the whole sequence when he was at the hotel in Las Vegas, which felt like almost like an hour. That was a really long segment. But apart from that, it is still fast moving. It still really goes many places before then quite quickly, and it does show you a lot, which is what you want. And I mean, like, I do like Baz's style of this movie. I mean, it's signature, his signature style, very stylized, and as I said before, his editing is very fast delivery, very fast paced, and sometimes it can be pretty obnoxious. Sometimes it can be a bit too much to take. But if you've ever seen movies like Moulin Rouge, Romeo plus Juliet, I think you know what you're going to be in for. It is a lot like that. And I do remember enjoying Australia a lot when it came out. I haven't seen it much since, but I did hear that movie also did raise a bit of controversy, how it kind of sort of misinterpreted Australian culture, especially like the Aboriginals. But Baz Luhrmann is an Australian himself, so it probably would have been worse if it wasn't an Australian director. But it is, even though I think he does spend a lot of his time in the States. But he was born in Australia. But overall, it is an enjoyable movie. It's not a perfect movie. There is quite a few problems with this movie, which probably comes down to maybe just its style. It's a bit too over the top at times. But apart from that, it is. I would recommend seeing this movie. It is an enjoyable one. So overall, if you're interested in seeing it, I would recommend that you do. It is still interesting, a lot of effort was put into it. So I will say that. Yeah, definitely see it if you want. And that's my opinion of it. Thanks for watching, and take care.